Hi, welcome and welcome back. I hope you're doing well. Since 1987, October has been Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And narcissistic abuse is domestic violence. It impacts your mind, your body, and your spirit. I pulled some information to share from the Ncadv website. That's the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And you'll see some interesting correlations. I want to share with you the Ncadv's mission. Their mission is to lead, mobilize, and raise their voices to support efforts that demand a change of conditions that lead to domestic violence, such as patriarchy, privilege, racism, sexism, and classism. They're dedicated to supporting survivors and holding offenders accountable and supporting advocates. They go on to talk about abuse and what that looks like, and abusers and some of their traits. Take a listen. Abusers don't necessarily fall into a particular type category, but they share some common traits. Check this out. They often deny the abuse. They often objectify their victims. They have low self-esteem and feel powerless, out of control. And they may look successful or look normal on the outside or appear normal on the outside, but inside's a completely different story. They also do a lot of blame shifting. They blame external factors, whether it's people, things, situations, substances, for their behavior. And they also will go through mean and sweet cycles. Sound familiar? Here are some of the signs of an abuser, and I'm just going to read these off. Extreme jealousy, possessiveness, unpredictability, a bad temper, cruelty to animals, verbal abuse, extremely controlling behavior, antiquated beliefs about the roles of women and men in relationships, forced sex or disregard of their partner's willingness to have sex, sabotage of birth control methods or refusal to honor agreed upon methods, blaming the victim for anything bad that happens, sabotage or obstruction of the victim's ability to work or attend school, controls all the finances, abuse of other family members, children, or pets, accusations of the victim flirting with others or having an affair, control of what the victim wears or how they act, demeaning the victim either privately or publicly, embarrassment or humiliation of the victim in front of others, harassment of the victim at work. There's a lot more information on the Ncadv website, and I'll put the link to their site in the description box. And I encourage you to go visit and check that out. They've got a lot of information, resources, hotlines, information about getting out. And hopefully you find that useful. As you can see, there are some similarities between the things that we talk about in terms of characteristics of a narcissistically abusive person and that lengthy list that's provided on the Ncadv's website. So, narcissistic abuse is domestic violence. With all that being said, I want to encourage you with two things. One, I want to encourage you to tell someone about what has happened to you or what is currently happening to you. A lot of times abusers get away with things, or they will continue in their behavior because no one is speaking up, no one is trying to stop them. And it doesn't even have to be in the context of a romantic relationship. On the website, they talk about how it could be someone in your church, it could be a friend, a teacher. There are so many different types of abusers, and there's no specific context that you're restricted to in terms of being abused. You can be abused in the workplace, and I know plenty of people who have been. I've been, and I've shared that with you in some other videos, and we'll talk more about the workplace in the future. A lot of times, people who witness the abuse won't say anything because they don't want to get involved, they don't want to get messy, or because it's not affecting them or their bottom line, then they kind of see it as really not having anything to do with them, or being something outside that's happening outside of them that they don't want to or feel an urgent need to get involved with. And it's so sad because abusers will continue to abuse until someone speaks up, says something, takes some action to stop the abuse. I want to encourage you to tell someone, find somebody that you trust. It could be a practitioner, it could be a close friend. You may have a close family member that you can confide in, but whoever it is, find someone that you feel safe with and that you feel comfortable with in terms of sharing, and tell them what has happened to you and what is currently happening to you, because sometimes abusers will come back. We see that with the hoovering, with narcissists. They'll come back to their supply sources and they will continue to abuse them. They'll try to engage them. They'll try to trick them into reacting, or they will play pity party or go for a sympathy play, or they will try to bait them into engaging with them, or harass or stalk them, or they'll try to manipulate them or force them or hem them up, like by calling their job, trying to get them fired, all kinds of things. And we need for people to speak up more and more, even people who have witnessed the abuse, to speak up and say something, to let someone know, report it anonymously, whatever, but to let people know. The second thing that I want to encourage you with is that it's not too late. You may be like, but Leslie, this happened a long time ago, or this was years ago, or I've moved on from this. I was little, I was a kid, I was a teenager, it happened in college, whatever the case may be. It's not too late to tell someone about what has happened to you. It isn't. And as an example, I had a conversation with my mom the other day, and I was talking to her about a project and just asking her some questions as part of that. And we were talking about my dad, talking about their relationship, and talking about some of the family dynamics. During the course of our conversation, I shared with her about some of the ways that my grandmother, my dad's mom, had manipulated me over the phone and just kind of trying to play pity party with me and really draw supply that way, and very emotionally manipulative. And here's the thing, this happened when I was younger, and I told my mom, I said, every single phone conversation, she would draw comparisons with herself and my other grandmother, my mom's mom. She would make these underhanded comments about my relationship with my maternal grandmother. And, you know, as a kid, I didn't know what to do with that. And I would listen to this every single conversation. Every time I called her, every time I talked to her, it seemed like she would bring this up. And she would just very kind of condescending and very just devaluing. And it was almost like she was mocking me for having a relationship with my maternal grandmother, who was very active and very actively engaged in my life. And we did a lot of stuff together, and she's a very big part of my life, and I miss her terribly. But I felt like my grandmother turned it into like this competition between the grandmothers, and my maternal grandmother wasn't playing. Anyway, I shared with my mom about these conversations, and how my grandmother would bring up every single conversation some kind of something where she would, pit herself against my other grandmother and draw these comparisons, and then kind of, make these snide remarks to me, and just how that made me feel as a kid. I was just like, okay, like what? And now that I understand about narcissism and narcissistic abuse, everything makes sense now. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. And she would try to, get me to say things like, oh, you're awesome, or, oh, well, you and I can get together and we can do this and we can do that. But the bottom line was, she didn't really want to do anything. Most of the time, she just preferred to be at home and to, be in the bed and watch TV and stuff like that, which is fine. My other grandmother was more active, but just the constant bombardment with these remarks was just these underhanded comments and these kind of snide remarks. And my mom was like, she goes, I had no idea that was going on. She goes, I'm so sorry. I'm 50. And my mom just found out for the first time this past week that my paternal grandmother was manipulating me emotionally, like over the phone, and just trying to, get me to fall in line with praising her or making her feel better or boosting her, whatever her motive was. That this went on for a long time during my childhood. My mom just found out the other day. And you know what? We had a great conversation about it, and I educated my mom about the characteristics of narcissists, and some of the tactics, some of the behaviors, and how it's patterned, and how every single phone call was like that with my grandmother. And my mom just listened, and she said, I had no idea. She said, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I did not even know that was going on. I didn't know that she was doing that. I didn't know. I said, well, now you know. But now I understand why. So I want to encourage you with that you may be older, or you may be years removed from the abuse. Even if you're younger, you may be removed from it, but it's never too late to tell someone. And obviously you want to use discernment in terms of who you share with, because, you want to make sure that it's someone who is supportive of you and who's going to empathize with your situation, even if it did happen a long time ago. And I got that from my mom. She apologized to me for something that she didn't even do, but just the fact that she didn't know. And she's like, boy, I really did not know that. But then she did acknowledge, she goes, you know what? I've seen her pit other people against each other over the years in the past myself. So that shouldn't really surprise me. And it was such a relief for both of us. I felt really empowered. I felt heard. I felt understood. My grandmother's been deceased for years now, years. But it felt good to be able to connect with my mom and connect the dots for my mom. And for me to put that out there and to share with her about what I experienced, so that she can better understand me and where I'm coming from. And also my desire to help you. Narcissistic abuse is domestic violence. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Please, if at all possible, tell someone what has happened to you and what is continuing to happen to you. And know that it's not too late. You're not alone, and you're not crazy. Know who you're dealing with. Know who you are. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.